Hello and welcome. This is my wife Mary and I'm Ed, and we're Branch Davidian Seventh-Day Adventists. We're excited you're joining us today. We present or expound on a principle or belief related to the SDA Sabbath School Quarterly each week. In this first quarter of 2020, we'll be studying the book of Daniel. This week's Sabbath School lesson covers the content of Daniel chapter 3. Monday's lesson discusses the parallels between Daniel chapter 3 verses 8 through 15 and Revelation chapter 13 verses 11 through 18. The lesson asks, what parallels can we see between what happens in Daniel's time and what will happen in the future?
So to start, let's summarize Daniel 3, 8 through 15. As you surely know, Nebuchadnezzar sets up a golden image, most likely reminiscent of the one from his dream in Daniel 2. But instead of just the head being gold, the entire statue is made of gold. He then forces his entire kingdom, including the Hebrew captives, to fall down and worship the golden image. Daniel's companions, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refuse to worship the image.
Daniel 3:14 then reads, So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up? And we all know that these three men were then thrown into the fiery furnace for their refusal of Nebuchadnezzar's mandate.
The lesson then takes us to the prophecy contained in Revelation 13 in order to draw parallels between what happened in Daniel's time and what will happen in the future. As Adventists, we know very well what the parallels are. One parallel being the combination of church and state, where the ruling authority of the state forces a state religion on its people on penalty of death, and another parallel being the emphasis on the number 6 concerning the ruling authority.
Monday's lesson notes the places where the number 6 is emphasized in both Daniel 3 and Revelation 13. The lesson reads, 6 categories of people are said to give allegiance to the image of the beast, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave. The number of the beast, which is 666, also emphasizes 6. This shows that the image erected by Nebuchadnezzar is just an illustration of what the eschatological Babylon will do in the last days. See Daniel 3:1 for the imagery of 6 and 60. Therefore, we do well to pay close attention to what transpires in this narrative and how God's sovereignty directs the affairs of the world.
In this week's study, we want to check out our understanding of Revelation 13 and the number 666 in order to make sure we know what ruling power it is that will or is to combine church and state in the last days, and to make sure we apply the number 666 to the proper beast. Satan wants nothing more than for us to apply the number 666 to the wrong power and therefore conceal its true identification. It is in this way that Satan can carry out his own plans right under the noses of God's denominated people.
But what do we misunderstand? Isn't 666 the number of the papacy?
Well, for sure, most Seventh-day Adventists believe that the number 666 goes on the office of the papacy, although Ellen White herself never says this.
Really? Well, what does she say?
We'll get to that in a minute. But first, we all know that Revelation 13 speaks of 2 beasts, the beast from the sea having 7 heads and 10 horns, and the beast from the earth that had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. If we follow Revelation 13, 11 through 18 carefully, we will see that Ellen and James White came to the correct conclusion as to which beast makes up the number 666.
Revelation 13, 11 through 18 speaks in context of the 2-horned beast which comes out of the earth. The SDA pioneers spoke much about the identity of this beast that had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. The pioneers recognized that America, while on the surface promoted lamb-like characteristics like its Republican government that promised equality and dignity for all of humanity, and its Protestant religious freedom of thought, judgment, and conscience, it, however, in reality protected the right to own slaves and destroyed anyone and anything on its way to manifest destiny. Its Protestant churches in reality were, and still are, places of religious intolerance. Many of the pioneers themselves experienced religious persecution through excommunication for their religious beliefs. The pioneers discerned that the United States clearly had the heart of a dragon underneath its lamb-like horns of power. They expected the problem to worsen over time, and it has.
I do think Revelation 13:11 through 18 is somewhat hard to follow, but when we read it with preconceived ideas about what it says, it makes the truth even more difficult to see. Revelation 13:11 through 18 is speaking in the context of the two-horned beast, which we Adventists know is representative of the United States. When we get to verse 18, we tend to think the number 666 goes on the first beast, the beast out of the sea who was wounded by the sword and lived, verse 14. But this is not where Revelation 13 assigns the number 666. Revelation 13 verse 18 reads, "Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Which beast is this talking about? As we read Revelation 13:11 through 18, we will see that the two-horned beast causes an image to be made of the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And it is the two-horned beast that causes those who worship the image to receive a mark. Let's see what James and Ellen White said in the booklet, A Word to the Little Flock.
James writes, Michael is to stand up at the time that the last power in chapter 11, Daniel, comes to his end, and none to help him. This power is the last that treads down the true church of God, and as the true church is still trodden down and cast out by all Christendom, it follows that the last oppressive power has not come to his end, and Michael has not stood up. This last power that treads down the saints is brought to view in Revelation 13:11 through 18. His number is 666.
So here we can see that James White is putting the number 666 on the beast brought to view in Revelation 13:11 through 18, which we already determined is the United States. Ellen White in the same booklet said this, "I saw that the number 666 of the image beast was made up, and that it was the beast that changed the Sabbath, and the image beast had followed on after and kept the Pope's and not God's Sabbath."
So here we can see that the image beast is not the papacy, but rather followed on after it. In other words, the two-horned beast made an image to the first beast, but it is not the first beast. It is the image beast, the United States, and not the papacy that will make up the number 666.
The man or woman that will bear the number 666 will therefore be the leader of the United States at the time the number is made up. It is this development we, the servants of God, must look out for so as not to be deceived by looking in the wrong direction. When this power appears in its fullness, we must be equipped to show others just who the image beast symbolizes so we will not inadvertently pay homage to it or give allegiance to it, either religiously or secularly.
While we don't know exactly when the number 666 will be entirely made up, it is quite obvious that the leader of the current administration is already violating the separation of church and state in much the same way that we should expect in the final fulfillment of this prophecy. Thus, we should all keep in mind that how we respond to the current leader reflects how we will likely respond to the leader when the number is made up. If we fail to recognize the violations of church-state separation under the current administration, and we give allegiance to it now, we will likely fail to recognize the violations of church-state separation when the number is made up, and we'll pay homage to it then. The present time is a test. Will we join the fallen churches of Babylon in supporting the leader of the two-horned beast as he unites church and state, or will we stand separate from apostate Protestantism and recognize the dragon speech for what it is? Revelation 13:16 says, "He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." If you get the opportunity, try to reread the entirety of Revelation 13:11 through 18 with the words of Ellen White and James White in mind.
In closing, we want to repeat the section we quoted earlier from Monday's Sabbath School lesson. It reads, 6 categories of people are said to give allegiance to the image of the beast: small and great, rich and poor, free and slave. The number of the beast, which is 666, also emphasizes 6. This shows that the image erected by Nebuchadnezzar is just an illustration of what the eschatological Babylon will do in the last days. See Daniel 3:1 for the imagery of 6 and 60. Therefore, we do well to pay close attention to what transpires in this narrative and how God sovereignly directs the affairs of this world. We must know who and what prophecy instructs us to pay close attention to and why. Praise God for the spirit of prophecy.
Thank you for staying with us through the entire video. We invite you to visit our website, www.bdsda.com, to learn more about who we are and, just as important, who we are not. Please join us each week as we will continue to offer new and interesting insights for your Sabbath School studies. God bless.
Many blessings.